1 minute ago, Jamie Foxx reveals the truth behind Diddy's dark empire. Shocking details. Exposed viewer discretion is advised. This is not fiction. It's the raw, unfiltered testimony of Jamie Foxx delivered under oath and in full view of the public. What began as whispers has exploded into a reckoning. This is not about rumors anymore. This is about survival silence and the price of knowing too much. The courtroom wasn't just filled with people. It was packed with expectation, fear, and something colder. Diddy sat expressionless at the defense table, his face a mask, his eyes somewhere else. The media had shown up in droves, phones were confiscated, no leaks this time, just truth finally cornered. Then came Jamie, tailored black suit, shoulders squared, hands clenched, not from fear but memory. His voice didn't crack. It didn't need to. Every word was a scalpel. They said, "If you speak, you won't make it here." But here I am. Gasps. One juror covered her mouth. A bailiff shifted his stance. Jamie wasn't there to speculate. He was there to bleed truth onto the record. The months of silence, the sudden hospitalization, the cryptic social posts, the missing friends, none of it was random. All of it had meaning. And Jamie came to explain why. This wasn't a health scare, he said, eyes locked on the jury. This was a message. It started small. Unmarked black SUVs. Parked too long. Different states. No plates. Same timing? Coincidence, Jamie asked. I don't believe in that word anymore. Then came the texts. Untraceable numbers. Don't forget who made you. You've seen too much. He ignored them until they named his daughter, her school, her schedule. That was the tipping point. He told his team, if I go down, don't call it a stroke. Don't call it an accident. Call it what it is, a hit. The courtroom was silent. No scribbles from reporters. No movement from the defense. Just Jamie dissecting decades of silence. Days before his collapse, something bold happened. On set, a man confronted him, demanded $35,000. Said he had footage. It'll ruin you, the man sneered. Jamie didn't ask what it was he already knew. And he knew who was behind it. He called the police. The man vanished. But it wasn't about the money, Jamie explained. It was about sending a message, a threat. They wanted leverage. They wanted me quiet. For a time, Jamie played along, kept his circle tight. But the attacks didn't stop. His assistant received emails coded cruel deliberate. They knew where to hit. Jamie said, pausing, right at my daughter. Then came the morning it all went black. Jamie woke up disoriented. Couldn't speak. Couldn't move. Chest tight. Arm numb. I was looking at people trying to ask for help, but no words came. Doctors said stroke, maybe seizure, maybe worse. But I knew, Jamie said. My body was screaming, this isn't natural. And when he finally opened his eyes in that hospital, one thought echoed in his head. They almost got me. He asked for his phone. Gone. His personal journal. Missing. Home security footage from the night before. Deleted. No error messages, no glitches, just erased. His tech team checked the drives melted. Not damaged, melted. And in that moment, he understood. This wasn't over. This was just the next phase. Someone had been planning this. Long before the hospital, long before the black SUVs. Jamie called it the cover-up phase, but this time he wasn't running. Jamie paused, then said the name no one dared. Sean Combs, Puff Daddy. Diddy. Silence snapped across the room like a gunshot. He didn't just throw parties, Jamie continued. He built a system. And I saw what I wasn't supposed to see. No phones, NDAs, velvet curtains, politicians, celebrities, athletes, all under one roof, all doing things no one wanted public. I never played the game, Jamie said. That's what made me dangerous. When Jamie declined a party invite in 2022, someone from Diddy's circle reached out. You acting brand new. Don't forget who helped you. Jamie brushed it off, but friends began warning him. Stop mentioning the parties. Stop naming names. He didn't stop. And then someone else spoke, a famous artist, traumatized after leaving one of Diddy's events. This dude was shaking, Jamie said. He saw something. He couldn't even speak. Jamie knew then he was next. Jamie sat back for a moment, breathing slow. Then he locked eyes with the jury. This is the part that haunts me. He mentioned a clip one he thought was innocent, a joke about Nick Cannon staying on his couch at 13. But then he saw it differently. Nick wasn't crashing. He was escaping. The gallery gasped. The judge looked down, scribbling. Nick told me your house was safe. And that changed everything. Because if Jamie's home was safety, what was everywhere else he went further? Some kids went into those mansions, Jamie said, and never came out the same. Or at all. The implication, horrific. They weren't rising stars, he whispered. They were collateral. He dropped a final name, one that unraveled the last knot. Kim Porter. His voice cracked. She was scared. She told me things, and then she was gone. Kim warned Jamie, told him she was ready to speak out. She had journals. She had stories. She was tired of silence. And now Jamie said, standing taller, I speak for her. The gallery froze. The jury leaned forward, and Diddy for the first time blinked. Jamie Foxx didn't just testify. He took the power back. And this was only the beginning. Jamie's eyes never left the jury. I wasn't supposed to survive that night. And I sure wasn't supposed to remember what I saw. The room held its breath. He described the night everything shifted. Early 2022, a last-minute invitation. A friend said it would be nothing, just drinks and familiar faces in Beverly Hills. Jamie hesitated. His gut twisted. But he went. They made it sound casual, he said. But nothing about that night was casual. The house wasn't just grand, it was surgically designed to conceal. Massive. Gated, glass and gold, cameras on the outside, but inside, not a single visible lens. Security collected phones at the entrance. Standard, they claimed, but Jamie knew better. There were NDAs waiting pre-printed with specific clauses about names, locations, behaviors. They weren't protecting privacy, Jamie said. They were erasing accountability. Inside, the vibe was off. No music pumping. No laughter echoing. Instead, whispers, shadows in designer suits, people avoiding eye contact. Jamie likened it to a luxury wake, expensive silent, and soaked in tension. And then there was the hallway. They called it the gold room, he recalled. Curtains instead of doors. Candles instead of lights. He didn't go in, but he didn't need to. I saw through a slit in the curtain. A kid, maybe 17. Surrounded by men in suits, and he didn't look okay. Jamie stopped. His hands trembled, but his voice didn't waver. I wanted to leave, but someone grabbed my shoulder. He looked the man in the eye. Cold stare. A rehearsed smile. Stay, Jamie? You're one of us now. Jamie didn't flinch. No, I'm not. And he walked away. But the moment he stepped off that property, the games escalated. Calls, messages, anonymous DMs, empty cars parked outside his home at night. Security sensors tripped with no visible intruder. They weren't hiding anymore, Jamie said. They wanted me to know. In the hospital, while recovering from what doctors couldn't fully explain, Jamie started piecing it all together. The timing, the silence, the footage that disappeared. My melted hard drive. The fact that my assistant was mugged the day after we backed up the files. He said it plainly, that night in Beverly Hills wasn't a party. It was a performance. And I wasn't invited, I was tested. The prosecution asked if he had proof. Jamie nodded. I started documenting everything after that night. Every text, every car, every face. He described the moment his security team discovered the burned surveillance system. The smell of plastic. the warped metal shell. We thought it was a tech failure, until we found the internal drive, melted from the inside. That's when the term appeared. An anonymous crew member sent me a screenshot. It was an email thread labeled Foxfire Protocol. The phrase chilled the room. It wasn't just a name, it was a plan. Control narrative, erase footage, prevent leaks. The document looked authentic. The production company denied it. But Jamie had seen enough. He didn't need consensus. He needed the world to hear. And so he turned down the NDA offer. Millions of dollars, a clean slate, an ironclad silence. They said it would protect my future, Jamie told the court. But it felt like they were burying my past and my soul with it. The defense tried to shake him. Why now, they asked. Why wait this long to speak? Jamie looked directly at Diddy. Because I thought I could heal. I thought I could move on. But healing requires truth. And there's no peace in pretending you weren't almost erased. He leaned forward. This wasn't a breakdown. This was a setup. The prosecution approached the bench with new evidence photos of the melted drive, copies of texts, time-stamped camera anomalies. Jamie's team had done their homework. And the jury. They weren't blinking anymore. They were leaning in. Jamie wasn't just surviving. He was building a case. And every piece fit. But it was what came next that cracked the courtroom's composure. I almost signed the NDA, Jamie admitted. They sent it through someone close. Someone I trusted. He didn't name them. Not yet. But I read one line that stopped me cold. This agreement shall preclude the undersigned from any form of memorialization discussion or publication related to the event or any related entities, past, present, or implied. That wasn't silence. That was an erasure, he said. And Jamie Foxx chose to exist. Publicly, loudly, permanently. He ended with a quiet warning, not to the jury, but to anyone watching. You built an empire on fear, but fear's a bad foundation. Because when it cracks, it doesn't just crumble, it explodes. Then he sat back, and for the first time in the trial, Sean Combs looked shaken. They asked him why he didn't go public sooner. Jamie exhaled, eyes narrowed, as if peeling back years of restraint. Because they made it so damn easy not to. He described the offer in detail. It came not from a lawyer, not even directly from Diddy, but from a third-party intermediary. A familiar face? Someone Jamie had once shared a stage with. Someone who hugged him at award shows and toasted him at rooftop parties. They said it was for my own good, he recalled, that I deserved peace, retirement, comfort. The document slid across the table like a blade in velvet. 7 figures. Discretion. Freedom from lawsuits. And a single clause that shattered the illusion in perpetuity and across all platforms, mediums, or modes of transmission. They wanted to delete me, Jamie said. Not just silence me. Erase my memory from the system. He didn't sign. That decision changed everything. The blowback was instant. Calls from former agents, invitations revoked. A project he was scheduled to headline was delayed indefinitely. Brand partnerships went quiet. One executive left him a voicemail that said, "Everything and nothing. Things are complicated right now, Jamie. Best to lay low." But Jamie had done enough laying low. Now he laid out names. He mentioned Cassie Ventura. She spoke. I watched her tremble, but she didn't break. She gave me courage. He mentioned Jaguar Wright. I'll be sure. Survivors who were blacklisted, mocked, or dismissed until the receipts started piling up. And then, again, he returned to Kim Porter. That woman died trying to protect her children. She was strong, but she was afraid. Jamie revealed that Kim had confided in him during a gala months before her death. She didn't want to smile for the cameras, didn't want to talk industry. She wanted to talk survival. She said, "Jamie, they're watching us. Be careful who you trust." Kim told him she was considering meeting with a federal contact. She said she had journals handwritten. Names, dates, events. She said, "I've had enough of being quiet." And then suddenly she was gone. Official cause pneumonia. But Kim was healthy, Jamie said. She worked out daily, ate clean, never smoked. And she was scared. That's not coincidence. He talked about the strange edits on Al B, Shearer's tribute posts, how statements about Kim being murdered vanished overnight, and how Al B reached out afterward, voice trembling. He said, "I don't feel safe anymore. Something's off in my house, like someone's been inside when I'm not there." The court was silent, but the tension was thick enough to shatter glass. Jamie leaned forward. It wasn't just her. Andre Harrell, Heavy D, all close. All gone too soon. He paused, and all of them had one thing in common. He didn't say the name. He didn't need to. At this point, the defense objected. Speculation, they claimed. But the judge didn't stop Jamie. Not this time, because he wasn't speculating. He was connecting dots the public had been staring at for years without seeing the pattern. Then came the revelation that stunned even the prosecution. Two of Kim Porter's closest friends had told Jamie she kept a final journal, one that detailed years of whispered conversations, unsettling behavior, and a list of names she feared. That journal never found. Not by her family, not by the press, not by the police. "I don't think it was lost," Jamie said. "I think it was taken." At that moment, the room changed. This wasn't just a testimony anymore. It was a map, each memory, a point, each silence, a path. And it led straight to the man sitting across from him. Then Jamie revealed something darker, something that chilled even the stenographer's fingers mid-typing. He spoke of a young artist, now retired, who had vanished from the spotlight just as they were gaining momentum. No scandal, no public breakdown, just disappeared. "I reached out," Jamie said. No answer. Finally, I got a call back, but not from them. It was their sibling. They said they're not doing interviews, not talking to anyone, not even family. Jamie paused, voice hollow. They said they don't smile anymore. He knew what that meant. Some of them survive, but they don't come back. As his third day on the stand wound down, Jamie delivered one last piece of the puzzle. He described how production on his set became chaotic in the weeks before his collapse. Lights malfunctioning, cables rerouted. One night he tripped over a wire that wasn't supposed to be there. I thought it was clumsy set design, but now I think it was a trap. He asked producers for security footage, hallway cams, even behind the scenes B-roll. Every file corrupted, every single one. And then came the big one. The footage from the very night of the $35,000 extortion attempt. Gone. Not missing. Not mislabeled. Gone. He ended the day with a whisper, not a roar. They told me I was paranoid, that I was reading too much into things. Then he looked at the jury. But when cameras keep breaking footage, keeps disappearing, and people keep dying, it's not paranoia. He stood slowly, spine straight despite the storm. It's a pattern. The gallery didn't applaud. They didn't move. They just stared because every word Jamie spoke echoed louder than any headline. And they knew. This wasn't a conspiracy. This was a confession the system never wanted. And Jamie Foxx was still talking. The fourth day of testimony began without the usual rustling of papers or shifting of seats. The gallery knew better now. Jamie Foxx wasn't just telling a story, he was dismantling a machine piece by piece. He opened with a name that had rarely been spoken in this trial, The Circle. Not a company, not a legal entity. A group, Jamie said. Tight, quiet, powerful. Not on payrolls, not on red carpets, but they're always nearby. He didn't offer conspiracy. He offered choreography. They manage who rises and who disappears, who gets protection and who gets sacrificed. and the way in the parties, not the public ones, not the magazine-covered galas. The private ones, no cameras, NDAs, but also no escape. He told the jury how those events were invitations and initiations. You think it's a party? It's not. It's proof of loyalty night. Jamie described a recurring location, a Manhattan penthouse. He attended once. Just once. I walked in and felt cold, he said. Not the temperature, the people. Back rooms, dark curtains, music low. The real music came from behind the walls, sounds that weren't celebration. I saw men I admired, stars, legends, and I saw fear in their eyes. He never drank, never sat, just observed. Until a man older respected whispered something that stayed with him. You see too much, Jamie? He left. But the circle didn't like witnesses. Back in court, Jamie was handed an exhibit. A photo. A familiar hallway. The gold room, he said softly. He pointed to a door in the background. That's the exit. But no one ever uses it. The prosecution asked why. Because they make you forget it's there. How fear, control, blackmail. Jamie explained the insurance protocol. Every guest was filmed, not always with consent. People doing what they wouldn't want public. That's the currency. He didn't speculate. He recounted. He spoke of a woman, a Grammy-winning artist, who confided in him after attending one of those parties. She said she blacked out after one drink. Woke up in a robe, alone. She never said more. She retired months later. Jamie said she hasn't performed since. He mentioned a rising actor who vanished after footage surfaced never released, but used. He signed 3 NDAs in 1 year, Jamie said. And then he left Hollywood. The defense attempted to discredit him again. Isn't it possible you're exaggerating? That these are stories, not facts? Jamie didn't raise his voice. No. They're confessions. Passed between people like torches in the dark, because we knew no one else would believe us. Then he reached for a folder. Inside were redacted screenshots, emails, texts, anonymous tips. He explained that after his hospital recovery, he started building a network. Not of lawyers or PR reps, but of survivors. We started sharing. Quietly. Carefully. He called it the lantern thread, because if we didn't light our own path, we'd be lost. The thread included musicians, assistants, stylists, even a former housekeeper. One of them said something that broke me. Jamie shared. She said it wasn't the secrets that hurt. It was realizing no one ever planned to stop them. And then came the name no one expected. Nick Cannon? Not as a victim, not as an accuser, as a symbol. I made a joke once. Said he stayed on my couch when he was 13. People laughed, but later Nick told him something that reframed that moment. He said, I wasn't just crashing, I was running. From what Nick never said. But his silence screamed, Jamie said. Jamie described how Nick thanked him for offering something rare in the industry safety. He said, your house was safe. I didn't understand it back then. I do now. Because safety isn't standard in this world. It's sanctuary, and it's rare. Then Jamie returned to the night of the party that changed everything. He described entering a new location, a private estate near Malibu. The house was quiet. Too quiet. You know when a space feels like it's holding its breath. The music was background only. The voices hushed. No laughter. And again the same setup, no phones, no IDs, signed waivers. He followed a hallway, not because he was curious, but because he felt pulled. And there it was. A boy, maybe 16, in a corner, surrounded by men twice his size. He didn't belong. He didn't want to be there. Jamie locked eyes with one of the men. I said, "What is this?" The man smiled. "It's the future." Jamie left, but he didn't leave untouched. Back in court, The prosecutor asked if Jamie had ever told anyone what he saw that night. I told my therapist, he said. Told my security? Told myself? He paused. And now I'm telling you. He leaned forward again. This isn't paranoia. It's process. It's what happens when power is used like a weapon. The judge didn't interrupt. No one did. Jamie spoke for another 20 minutes, detailing small things, names left off guest lists, footage, edited post-production whispers at events. None of it was explosive on its own, but together it painted a mural of control, of silence, of survivors in plain sight. He ended the session by pulling out a small torn page, folded, worn. It was a copy of a handwritten note from Kim Porter. Not the original, he didn't have that. But the message was clear. If I disappear, it wasn't an accident. You know where the truth lives? Don't let it die with me. Jamie read it aloud. Then he said the words that rattled even Diddy's legal team. I'm not here to win. I'm here to make sure no one forgets. And with that, he stepped down for now. The gallery didn't cheer, but in that silence something shifted. The curtain had been pulled back, and behind it was something no PR team could repair. Jamie Foxx returned to the stand with the composure of a man who had walked through fire barefoot and taken notes. He started part 5, not with an accusation, but with a confession. I wasn't always brave, he said. There were days I almost signed that NDA. Days I told myself, take the money, walk away, live quietly. But fear, he said, isn't a good life coach, and shame is even worse. He spoke about a moment quiet alone just after he was discharged from the hospital. No cameras, no handlers, just him staring at his reflection. I asked myself one question. If I die tomorrow, what version of me does the world remember? He didn't like the answer, because the truth was still trapped inside him, and what he'd seen, what he knew, was bigger than him. He brought up someone the courtroom hadn't heard about before. A friend. A runner, he called him. One of the men whose job it was to handle logistics at private events. Get the guests. Screen the footage. Delete what needed deleting. I won't say his name, Jamie said, because he's still out there, still scared. But the man had come to Jamie after the hospital incident shaken. Said he'd been followed, that files had been pulled, that his hard drive, just like Jamie's, was melted inside a locked case. He said, they know I talked to you. Jamie offered protection. A lawyer, a place to stay. The man disappeared 3 days later. No goodbye, no trace, just silence. Then Jamie did something rare for courtroom testimony. He told a story within a story about a girl he met years ago at a charity event. Just 16, gifted voice of an angel. Diddy had expressed interest in mentoring her. Something in her eyes reminded me of my sister, Jamie said. Innocence, but also hope. A year later, she vanished from the music scene. Jamie reached out to her family. No answers. Years later, a woman matching her name reached out anonymously through a burner email. 3 words. You were right. That was it. No follow-up. No reply address. But I knew it was her, Jamie said, and I knew what that meant. Then he pivoted back to the present, back to the circle, to the network that didn't just cover for Diddy, but profited from him. Award shows, media outlets, streaming platforms, they didn't just ignore the signs. They gave him more power. Jamie pointed out specific instances, a major award ceremony that doubled security after Cassie filed her lawsuit, but still gave Diddy a Lifetime Achievement Award. A magazine spread calling him a visionary days after whispers of misconduct leaked. An interview host who cut a segment where a guest made a veiled reference to industry predators. This isn't negligence, Jamie said. It's complicity, wrapped in branding. The prosecutor handed Jamie a printed image, an Instagram post from a now deleted account. It was a party photo from 5 years ago. Jamie, Diddy, 2 politicians, 3 young influencers, everyone smiling. The caption, only the chosen. Jamie stared at the image. That night, he said slowly, was the first time I noticed the energy shift. He didn't know it then, but that was the night the invite started coming differently. Less public, more exclusive, more rules. That was when they started testing loyalty. He turned to the jury. Every smile in that photo cost something. Then came the moment no one saw coming. Jamie named someone who had once helped him land a career-defining role. A studio executive. Beloved. Clean image. He pulled me aside once Jamie said, "You're getting too curious," he told me. "This isn't your fight." But Jamie couldn't unsee what he'd seen, couldn't unhear what Kim had whispered, couldn't unfeel what that 17-year-old boy's eyes had told him. The executive's warning didn't scare him. It clarified something. This wasn't a few bad apples. This was a greenhouse. Jamie described what he called soft assassinations. Not murders, not direct threats, but erasures. Career stalled. Health mysteriously failing. Public breakdowns framed as burnout or mental health crises. "You've seen the headlines," Jamie said. "You just didn't know what they meant." He listed names not to shame, but to remember. Artists, directors, publicists, they weren't weak. They weren't unstable. They were resisting. And the system chewed them up. The defense tried again. "Mr. Foxx, you have a history with Mr. Combs. Personal and professional. Is it possible this is revenge?" Jamie looked at them unblinking. I laughed with him, defended him, trusted him. "That's not revenge. That's betrayal." He leaned forward, and betrayal doesn't inspire revenge. It demands truth. He then delivered what many would later call the emotional core of the trial. "I'm not doing this to win. There's no win here. Not for me. Not for the people who didn't make it to testify." He paused. "I'm doing this so they're not forgotten." Before stepping down, Jamie offered one last image. He described driving past a billboard a month after his hospitalization. It was a perfume ad. Diddy's face, massive, glossy, unbothered. Below it, the tagline, "Unforgettable." Jamie stared at it for 10 minutes, parked in silence. And then whispered to himself, "Not if I speak." The final day of testimony began with a tension so sharp, it seemed to hum in the air. Jamie walked in, not as a witness, but as a closer. The courtroom wasn't filled with noise anymore. It was filled with listening. Every eye tracked his steps. Even Diddy, who had spent the previous days leaning back in strategic indifference, now leaned forward. Jamie opened with no preamble. "Everything I've said, everything I've shown you at all, comes down to one thing: they didn't expect me to still be here." He wasn't talking about fame. He was talking about life. He spoke of a recent incident. A friend, someone helping him collect documentation, had been mugged in broad daylight. Surveillance cameras malfunctioned. Nothing was stolen but a laptop bag. Inside, external drives. Backups of backups. Gone. He spoke of cars still parking outside his property unmoving. Of emails that never arrived, but were referenced by people he hadn't spoken to. They're not sloppy. They're systemic. This isn't intimidation. It's choreography. The courtroom sat still. "This is how power operates when it's unchecked," he continued. "It stops being defensive and becomes anticipatory. They don't react to threats. They erase them before the world hears them. But Jamie had already been erased once, and he came back louder. Then he delivered what many would call the testimony's final blow. He described the days immediately after his hospitalization. The confusion, the fear, the moment a close friend still in the industry visited him and begged him not to speak. They said, "You'll never work again." I said, "Then I'll do something else." Because silence was no longer an option. Not after Cassie stood on that stand trembling but unbroken. Not after Kim Porter's voice was silenced in life but echoed through journal pages that still hadn't surfaced. Not after the boy in the gold room, the girl who sent him only 3 words, the friend who vanished, the woman who never sang again. They made it look like we disappeared, Jamie said. But we didn't. We were pushed. The prosecutor asked one final question. Why now, Mr. Foxx? Why take this risk at this time? In this way? Jamie looked across the room, at the jury, at the gallery, at Diddy. At first I wanted peace, but I learned something peace built on silence isn't peace. It's paralysis. He nodded to the jury. I speak because I'm still here, and I speak because she's not. He didn't say Kim's name. He didn't have to. He walked the jury through one last revelation, his most personal. A voice memo he left on his phone the night after the Beverly Hills party. He played it aloud for the court. It was scratchy, quiet, just Jamie's voice barely audible. If this is the last thing I ever record, know this wasn't random. I saw something I wasn't supposed to, and I need someone to know. The courtroom didn't breathe. He looked out over the gallery. That voice memo was never backed up. It survived because I forgot to delete it. That's how fragile survival is in this system, one missed deletion. Jamie stood from the witness box, walked to the center of the courtroom, permission granted by the judge, and faced the man he once called a friend. I was your ally. I laughed at your jokes. I danced at your parties. I defended you when others whispered. His voice hardened. But you made a choice. You turned those parties into prisons. You turned friends into pawns. You used fear like a key and silence like a leash. He pointed not for drama, but for clarity. And now you have to hear me say this. Out loud, with cameras rolling. He turned to the gallery. This man is not a mogul. He's not a legend. He's a symptom of a system that trades souls for secrets. Then he addressed the broader room, no longer just the court, but the culture. Hollywood didn't just protect him, it promoted him. While we bled in private, they handed him awards. He called out networks, labels, journalists who asked soft questions while knowing hard truths. He didn't build this empire alone, and when it falls, they should fall with it. He paused for the last time. I'm not a hero. I'm just someone who survived long enough to be heard. And then, one final echo. You told people I wouldn't talk, that I owed you, that I was scared. Jamie smiled, not smugly, but like a man who just emptied his lungs after holding his breath too long. I don't owe you anything. I owe the truth everything. And with that, he stepped down from the stand. No mic drop, no dramatic exit. Just a silence finally earned, and behind that silence a reckoning that could no longer be stopped.